Hi, this is Érika from Small Robot Studio. In this video, we're going to retopologize the model of a head in Blender 2.9. This technique will work from any human or humanoid proportion head. We're using one we already modeled in a previous video with Nomad Sculpt. When sculpting, we end up with a crazy amount of polygons. This is fine for building shapes, but for anything else, it's useless. This incredibly high amount of polygons will make any CG software's performance suffer. When rendering, we might end up with some funny looking surfaces. Animation is the main reason. Good flowing loops will allow us to deform the surface nicely. In fact, let's look at this next to the muscles responsible for creating expressions. This is the reason behind why the loops follow these directions and we have disconnections. Now focus for a moment on these areas. A vertex connected to 5 polygons. This is known as a pole. When I highlight them, notice how they match with the area of intersection of bones and muscles. Their placement is not random. I find it useful to plan these flows drawing on top of a front and side view of my model. If you want to go deeper on the topic of expressions, check out my character design video. Otherwise, let's carry on with retopology. There are plenty of retopology tools out there, and they keep getting better every day. I'll show you the process inside Blender, with no paid add-ons, because it's free. I must admit, it's not my favorite tool, but I don't want to assume that you all have access to paid software. Retopology isn't about the tool, it's about the logic we follow to do it. This tutorial is longer than my usual because I go through software-specific tools. If you want to skip all that and go directly to the Retopology process, look for the timestamp below. Hey, make sure that you are subscribed with notifications on. Otherwise, you might be missing out on the many tutorials that we release for free each week here on YouTube. Let's hop on into Nomad Sculpt to prepare our model. On the head sculpting tutorial, we made the eyelids out of 2 half spheres, so the inside is actually clipping with the eyes, which is gonna be a problem when we want to animate this. So we're gonna make a hole for the eyes by duplicating the eyes geometry, then I'll hide it, select the head geometry and apply a voxel remesh. Remesh in high resolution to avoid losing detail. Give it a second to process and the result is a hollow eye socket. Now, we still have lots of polygons, which is gonna hurt Blender's performance. So I'm gonna reduce the poly count with a global dynamic remesh. I'll mask the areas with more detail, like the features of the face, to protect them. Inside the topology menu, I'll scroll down to dynamic and on the very bottom, I'll choose decimation, which is going to remove detail. I will do a couple tests with the level of detail to see how low I can go without losing my shapes. This already works, but if you want to go even lower, reverse the mask and decimate the rest. You can check the poly count on the top left or inside the topology menu. We are now ready for exporting. I'll use GLTF and send it to my computer. Alright, this next section is setting up the scene. This setup is sort of automatic in other softwares. Blender 2.9 doesn't have per se retopologizing tools, which is why we need to do this manually. Also, I'm not gonna go deep on shortcuts, but rather show you where the tools are. I'll go to File, Import GLTF. The mesh is a bit small, so it's hidden inside the cube. I'll just make the cube smaller and take it out of the way. I do not need all of these meshes, so I'm gonna hide everything except the face. I'll do it on the outliner by clicking the eyes. I'm gonna use the cube in the scene and scale it and move it to the eyebrow area. I'll go into edit mode here on the top left and pick face select. Select the front face, invert the selection and hit delete. Since there's so much information that could be deleted, a menu shows up, so choose faces. This is gonna leave us with a plane. Yes, we can also create a plane and position it here instead. I find starting with a cube easier for some reason. Don't forget to name the object inside the outliner. Now, we want this plane to stick to the surface of the head, so we're going to activate Snap with this magnet icon on the top center. Open the menu with the arrow, choose Face and activate Project Individual Elements. Let's go to Vertex Select, and with the Tweak tool, I'll move each vertex towards the surface, which they're gonna stick to. We'll make this even more accurate by adding a shrink wrap modifier. So look for the wrench icon on the right and select Add Modifier. Look for shrink wrap inside the deform column. We will set the target to the head, so we're wrapping to it. Click on the eyedropper and on the outliner pick the head. Make sure to activate the triangle icon so the cage adjusts to the modifier result. Let's add yet another modifier to mirror this geometry. Click again on Add Modifier and select Mirror under the Generate column. I'll pick with the eyedropper the head, so the mirror is based on it. I'll also activate clipping so the vertex close to the center doesn't cross to the other side. Alright, we are almost done, bear with me. The plane sticks nicely to the surface and has symmetry, but I cannot see it very well, and sometimes when I try to select it, I end up selecting the head. Let's first make the head unselectable. On the outliner, look for the funnel and click on the arrow to open the menu. For the restriction toggles, select the second icon that looks like an arrow. Now on the outliner, deactivate this arrow, and this makes the object unselectable in the viewport. Now for our plane, I'll go to Object Properties and look for Viewport Display. Click on the option that says in front, and voila! The plane is now always visible in front of any other geometry. Finally, to make it even more distinguishable, I'll go to Material Properties, then look for the icon on the top that looks like two sheets of paper to create and assign a new material. I'll name it Retopology. Let's close the surface section and scroll down to Viewport Display. Here I'm gonna choose a nice color. At some point, when we have tons of polygons, everything is gonna be visible, even from the back. So in Viewport Shading, I'll activate in Options, Back Face Culling. This way, I'm only gonna see the polygons pointing towards my camera. Great! The only thing left to do is look at the tools that we're gonna be using. Make sure that you are on Edit mode, and on the left, look for Polybuild. This one lets me quickly extrude a face out of an edge. Click and drag a vertex to adjust its location. Hold down Shift, and whatever is highlighted will be selected when clicked. The good old Tweak tool and the classic Extrude will be quite handy as well. Let's look at loop cuts. This is gonna cut a mesh, creating an edge loop. Once we have made a cut, a menu will pop from the bottom, so open it and modify the number of cuts. If you hover on top of any tool, it's gonna show you the shortcuts that it has assigned. Tweak and Polybuild are the tools that I use the most, but Polybuild does not have a shortcut. So for easy access, I'll assign one. I'm gonna right-click on top of the tool and select Assign Shortcut. Since Tweak is Q, I'm gonna assign S for Polybuild, which are really close in the keyboard. Sometimes we'll need to merge two vertices into one. To do so, I'll select them with Tweak and Shift, then go to Mesh, Merge, and Add Center. Or way faster, select them, right-click on top, and a menu with relevant actions will show up. Here you'll find Merge Vertices, Add Center. The next tool will cover operations like bridging between edges or filling holes. But this is an add-on we had to activate first. Open the software preferences, go to Add-on, look for F2 and activate it. You only have to do this once. If you open Blender again, it's gonna work. Let me show you how this works. If you want to bridge, select the two edges you wish to bridge and press F. It also works if you choose 4 vertices, or in fact, 4 edges. And my favorite action, choose a vertex that is in the middle of 2 more and press F. We'll get a new polygon with a corner attached to our cursor. Click again and set the location. Our setup is done. Let's move on to retopologizing. You might have heard the etiquette behind retopology, like having good loops, which we now know it's to allow muzzle-like deformations. You'll also hear to be conservative with poles. The main reason is that they tend to create pinched surfaces around them. They are inevitable, so we place them on the natural intersections of the face that I showed you before. Let's get on to it. By the way, our Patreon supporters for this month will have access to the model step by step as an extra reference to follow. To access the rewards of the month, join us at patreon.com/smallrobotstudio. Alright, we're gonna start with the loop around the eyes. Make the loop symmetrical. A vertical cut, a horizontal cut, and a diagonal for each side. In other words, 8 divisions. I'll number them with the annotate tool so it's easier to follow. Let's create the first 2 poles for the inside corner of the eye and the origin of the brow. I'm gonna pull out a polygon out of edge number 1. From that new polygon, create 2 more pointing up and down. From either side, I'm gonna go around the eye loop and join with a bridge. As you can see, we have our first 2 poles. At number 7, I'm gonna extrude 3 times. The first one is gonna create a loop for the nasolabial fold, also known as the laughing line. It's gonna go over the nose and under the chin. The second one is gonna go on the outside of the mouth, under the nose and above the chin. And the next one is gonna go around the mouth. We'll connect the rest of the loop with 3 divisions of top and bottom to make them symmetrical. Let's now create a connection over the nose with 2 divisions. We're gonna do next the loop that frames the face. From edge number 4, I'm gonna pull out a polygon with 2 divisions. From the second division, I'm gonna bring it around the forehead. Keep track of where we're gonna connect this to the outer eye loops. Did you notice I created a pole in the corner? Take time to arrange these strips to follow clean lines. Make the polygons as even as possible and collect at least every other strip. I'd rather fill out all the holes further in the process. If you need an extra hand, use the annotate tool to draw a map of where each loop is going. From the mouth edge number 5, I'm gonna create a connection towards the bottom of the ear. I'll stretch it, aligning it to the end of the outer eye loop. What we have gives me a clue of the cuts we need to make. A connection for the outer mouth, the laughing line, and the eye loops. Make the cuts and arrange them nicely. I'm just gonna connect the face from the frame loop, but I'm not gonna worry yet about divisions, because we need to solve the ear first. The vertices closer to the corners of the ears are gonna become poles, so I'm gonna create 5 faces around them. This C around the ear is gonna become my ear loop, so I'll make the rest of the loop symmetrical to what I have. The other 2 corners of the ear are also gonna become poles. I'll extrude them and leave them for now. Let's carry on to the bottom of the face to close some of the loops we have. Again, as we go around, keep in mind the connections. For now, don't worry about areas of stretch polygons. Yes, we're gonna make cuts eventually, but right now we're trying to keep it simple and manageable. For the major loops, we are missing the back of the head. From the top pole at the back of the ear, I'll extrude a polygon up, connect it towards the front, and again, go around, minding the connections. I'll do the same with the other pole. My model is quite narrow from here, so I won't need as many connections. With the help of poles in the back, I'll connect the strips coming from the top of the head. Wider necks might not need this. You will notice that I am filling every other strip with holes of 4 vertices that are gonna be really easy to fill later. The last important loop that I need is around the neck. I will start from the back middle with 2 divisions. The first one is going to give me a transition step and the next one an independent neck loop. The flow that I am more careful to keep is from top to bottom. The underside of the jaw can be a bit tricky. I'm gonna utilize these poles that I have here. These holes with 4 vertices tell me that I'm going in the right direction. As I'm looking around, I just realized that something happened here in the front. Probably from the back I accidentally deleted something, so I'm gonna fix that. Yep, that works. Let's turn our attention to the nose. The nose is probably the trickiest part. First, I'm gonna close this loop from the laughing line over the nose. Now we can see how it starts on the nose, goes down, and ends under the chin. From the center of the nose, I'm gonna extrude 2 polygons, and I will add 3 divisions. From the bottom ones to the side, I'm gonna create 3 more polygons. I'll arrange them around the wings of the nose, so we should have 5 divisions. This is gonna create the loop on the tip of the nose. So carry on with the loop over the nostril, making the connections for each part. The divisions should look like this: 2 1s, 2 2s, 2 3s, 2 4s, and 1 5. To connect this with what we already have, we're gonna need more resolution. So we will do the following. Identified the laughing line loop. Now we're going to delete the face that connects to the section 7 of the eye. Now we're gonna create an edge loop to cut on that section of the eye, the lip, and the laughing line loop. From here, I'm gonna reconnect towards the nose. Next section is gonna have a tricky connection towards the nose. Fill up what we had before and connect until the very last 4 vertices. Instead of connecting to the next one, I'm gonna go around towards number 3. This corner, of course, is going to become a pole. With the previous 2 vertices, fill a quad and extrude 1 polygon from number 5. These 2 corners are gonna become poles. I'm gonna fill this space to finish the pole, connected towards the top. From the other pole that we'll create here, we'll make our way underneath the nostril for its own loop. Then from the center of the nose, I'm gonna go down and connect there. As you can see, we have a symmetrical loop. I'll select all the vertices around the loop and extrude them towards the center. The inside is quite easy to fill because we can make 2 quads. We'll add a bit more resolution with a loop on the inside, and the nostril is ready. For this open loop in the middle of the nose, the logic is gonna be the same. Select the loop and extrude it. Rearrange your vertices for closing it. If you needed more resolution for the tip of the nose, we can easily add a loop there. But I'll try not to get too excited adding resolution, that's a step for later. Alright, we made a division for the eye loop and the mouth, which means they are not symmetrical anymore. So we will add more loops to keep it equal. But before adding any more complication, I think it's time to close the holes we have. If any of these holes won't close with a simple quad, you might have to rework the area. For instance, this connection. I could make a cut here, but I don't want to add even more complication to the mouth. I want this to flow towards the ear. So instead, I'm gonna make a pole here. Much better. I'll finish filling the chin. My chin probably needs more resolution, so I can make a clean cut over here. Now that it is all full, let's bring symmetry back. We divided the bottom of the eye, so let's divide the top. Cut where having more polygons aids resolution. A loop all the way back into the neck is not needed in this case, so this one is better. We divided the top of the lips, so let's divide the bottom. In this case, the front of the neck is a bit stretched, so this cut is gonna be useful. Speaking about stretch polygons, the cheek and the connections of the ear could benefit from extra resolution, so let's make those symmetrical cuts. Looking at my model from the side, I can also notice that the forehead, look for the nice loop and make a cut. Don't forget to tweak the edge flow to keep clean lines and faces as square as possible. I'm going to skip the ear process. This area is way less strict because we are not deforming them. Follow the same logic than the nose. Plan where you're gonna have your loops, use your poles conservatively, and watch out for cuts that could break your symmetry or add too many polygons. Finally, we're gonna do the eyes and the mouth. What we want to do is to extrude over the eyelid, then the edge towards the inside, and one more time inside the eyelid. The rest will remain open. To close this hole from the middle, I'm just gonna connect it down towards the lips. The only thing that is missing are the lips, which are gonna follow the same logic as the eyes. But my sculpt does not have a hole like we do for the eyes, so we need a bit of preparation to do it by hand. I'm gonna bring the loop to the mouth to the very center of the lips. We're gonna add a modifier for subdivisions to see my mesh smoothed out. In my case, I'll have to go back and rework some of the middle vertices that I haven't quite closed. I also need to add some resolution with edge loops on areas that still don't describe the shape very well. For instance, the ears or the cheek. Add resolution to the very end, not before. Once it's all working, apply your modifiers except subdivision and deactivate snapping. Afterwards, you will be free to finish off the mouth like we made the eye socket. And we are all done. Thanks a lot for sticking around on this especially long tutorial. On the next one, we're gonna take this topology and bring it back to Nomad to create expressions with layers. So I'll see you soon. That's it for this tutorial. If you find it useful, make sure that you leave a like so other people can find it. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, as we are bringing out CG and illustration tutorials every week. Become a patron and access tutorial assets, bonus content, a private Discord, and more by clicking in the link below.